Welcome
So,
everyone to another Lit Chat from the Long Branch Public Library. I'm Kate and this is Tara. We took a brief hiatus, or a sort of long hiatus from Lit Chats, but we're back. Tara's going to explain our theme for today.
I am. So Kate and I had talked about what a good theme would be. And since we've all been in more than usual and maybe looking for things to do, we thought books for adults who aren't big readers. So books that will appeal to adults who may just never have gotten into reading. I always think of one woman who used to come in all the time, and she told me she could not abide reading from the time she was in high school on. She rarely read a book. And then when she hit about 70, she read, it was one of the Amish stories and loved it so much. And it just like opened her eyes to reading and how great a fit reading was with her. So, it sounds trite, but it's never too late. And
for a lot of people, unfortunately.
And there's something, my thing even with the children is always there's a book for everybody, or there's something to read for everybody. So we wanted to talk about maybe a few options that if you wanted to start reading, or you maybe have someone in your life who you think would enjoy reading, but just hasn't ever gotten into it so much, we have some good suggestions. And shall I give mine first, Kate, or do you want to hit us up with yours?
It's all you.
Yeah. But my go-to for I guess to start, it would be try to align reading with what your interests are. Like, even if there's a book that's a bestseller, if you have no interest in it, you're not going to get any enjoyment out of it.
Exactly.
So start with something you'll like. And I think, like, again, and I'm going to kind of relate this to how I deal with children, not because I think adults who don't read are childlike, but because it's what I'm comfortable with and what I know works. So I would find out, like, if someone's a sports fan, what books, and there's even some great books in YA that Kate will mention, I'm sure. But go along with what people enjoy. So if you like action movies, then pick up a graphic novel that's comic themed. I love suggesting graphic novels because those truly, they're a world unto themselves. So many of them are so terribly underrated and underacknowledged.
Very literary. So they're a great sort of stepping stone in a lot of ways, and then they're also really their own thing. They're award-winning. There's some that are, as long and have as many words as a regular novel. They have nonfiction, they have fiction, they have historical novels. I know Mouse is one that is very popular and very good.
Very powerful. Yeah. Very powerful. Yes, and good point that they're not all light themed,
but
throwaways. They can be, absolutely. Years ago, we didn't have a huge selection of them at the library. Even they just weren't on the radar. I'm talking when I first started working at the library, and I used to borrow them from other libraries. And now we've got really a substantial collection of them, wide range of topics and types. So I would start with
the adult collection came even later than the children's collection. So
right. True. We were late to the game, but we've made up for it in substance.
Yeah.
And then two, I love a novella or something really, really manageable, something that doesn't feel physically overwhelming, is always a good place to start. And I wish the publishers had done more of these, but James Patterson had a line for a while called book shots, right? Book shots. And they were just slim novellas, quick reads, and people loved them to like just grab and go, take to the beach, take somewhere very manageable, go anywhere. Something like that is a great place to just start, and especially for action thriller readers or likers. And then there's everything else. I mean, we could recommend, and also call your library and connect with somebody. People who work in libraries love to give recommendations. So if you're looking for one, call your library. Certainly call us. We will happily give recommendations.
Absolutely.
But it's easy to see, don't judge a book by its cover, but a lot of times it's easy to see what a book represents or what it's going to bring to you. So go ahead and look at its cover, see if that appeals to you. Talk with other people. Someone, oh gosh, who was it? I'm not going to remember now. It must have been a friend of mine, was like, oh, I've never been in a book club. I'm not a big reader. And I jokingly said, oh yeah, sometimes they even get around to talking about the book. And she was like, really? So they're fun? Find a good book club. And the good thing about book clubs is you'll be pushed to read things you wouldn't have chosen. Exactly. And several times I picked up new authors that I now love, or conversely, maybe a bestseller that I didn't, which one comes to mind, and I'm not going to mention it because I'll be quartered and drawn and quartered, something like that. But what are you thinking, Kate? What would you recommend to an adult who wants to start reading?
So I made myself a list, and I started with, I thought YA is a good way. The same way graphic novels are a good stepping stone. YA books have, and this is sort of a pro and a con. I've read some YA, I haven't read a ton, so it's sort of a con for me, but I can see how it would benefit someone who is not an avid reader. YA books tend to have sort of less in-depth development. They're for teen readers, right? So they're just, a sort of a step down in some ways from an adult book when it comes to sort of how it's written. They are amazing. Don't get me wrong. They're very good. There is character development. There is story. It's all there. Just maybe slightly less of it. So one series that I read and I absolutely love for people who are into fantasy, Children of Blood and Bone. There are 2 books out. I believe it's a trilogy, so we're waiting for the 3rd. It's amazing. It's going to be a movie as well. So read it now and then you can watch the movie when it comes out. But then of course your main characters are teenagers, so that you also have to sort of adjust and grapple with. You're not dealing with adult themes, you're dealing with teen themes, which sometimes are very adult, but and then I have my authors who I love who write regular adult fiction, but they're easier. They're easy reads. Sorry. And then, so 2 of those authors are Wally Lamb and Jeffrey Eugenie. And I say easier reads as far as the vocab isn't huge. I don't even know. They're easier. They're not whereas you get who can I think of? Ernest Hemingway is just pages and pages of description. You're not going to get that, which is good. You don't have to wade through it to keep moving with the story. Wally Lamb has a bunch of books. Jeffrey Eugenie has a couple, all very good. I've read all of them. And then we talked about high school a little bit. And I think a really awesome way to sort of get back into reading is to revisit the things that either you think you hated in high school or you tried to get through and couldn't because you were required to do it, or things you kind of liked but maybe didn't completely understand because you were 14 and you have a better, you'll understand it better now as an adult. So just a couple: Great Gatsby, Wuthering Heights, Of Mice and Men, all those, they're good. And then I do have a list of books that are like full commitments for anybody who is not hesitant and wants to jump in head first. One of my favorite books is Native Son. Takes a huge commitment. And then right now I'm reading Joyce Carol Oates. She's kind of a commitment. And then William Faulkner and Gabriel Garcia Marquez. They're the two authors I always go to, but you definitely have to be into it. But very interesting stories. They're good storytellers. So if you're not hesitant about the actual reading and you want a really good story, definitely try them out. But that is my list.
Impressive.
Were there any other books from high school, Tara, that you can think of?
Oh my gosh. I was like the weird kid who loved high school reading. So A Separate Peace was one of my favorite books. Of Mice and Men, like you said, is just a great, it won't take you very, very long. It won't be weeks, if you give a little time to it. It's a shorter book, but great story. Great Gatsby. You mentioned all the ones that they typically hit upon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, there was another one somewhere in my brain that I read in high school.
Oh,
that I thought was worthy of mention.
While you're thinking of that, another really good one, if I'm going to say for women, but for whoever, The Awakening was always one of my favorites.
Kate Chopin?
Mm-hmm.
I've never read it.
Leans Victorian, it's one of those, or it is Victorian, whatever. But good.
Yeah, I'll have to. I should probably read that. I guess that's what got me to think of him, Of Mice and Men. But really, any of Steinbeck's are great, kind of manageable books. Maybe not all of them, but many of them. Some are a little full of despair, but we love that.
We do.
Love some good despair. And it's funny, when my youngest daughter was in middle school and high school, I read a lot of YA because she wanted me to read with her so we could talk about it. And that's when I read The Hunger Games and The Fault in Our Stars, several that were like that were just really readable, just really good stories, good, fully rounded characters, really enjoyable. And
that's also a really good way for an adult to get back into reading or into reading for the first time. Read what your kids are reading.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Plus it opens up a really nice conversation point for you. Yeah. And if they don't talk or won't talk to you, then just tell them you can't stand their favorite book. You'll get a reaction, if nothing else. But, and also I would say for people, if they're movie watchers or TV watchers, what do you enjoy watching?
Right.
Because chances are, and again, we can make recommendations for that, whether it's medical dramas. So many people watch those. I didn't know Grey's Anatomy was still on the air, by the way. I'm pretty sure it is. I saw that recently. I was like, oh, I never watched it, but
I did, but I stopped a really long time ago.
They're not retirement age by now.
But yeah, no, you're exactly right. If you like medical dramas, fine. If you like crime dramas, that's great. If you like
Oh,
comedies,
yeah.
if you just read sitcoms, that stuff is there in books too. If you like what's just out, Netflix just released Bridgerton, which is like a Victorian gossip girl
From
what I gather.
Shondaland.
Haven't seen it yet. Yes, from Shondaland.
I'm excited.
Speaking of
We're going to watch it.
So you can find stuff that reflects anything that you like to watch, whether it's TV, movies, romance, you know, it's all there.
Mm-hmm. Queen's Gambit, which I had no idea what it was. My dad told me about it and we just started watching it, my middle daughter and I. And so far it's really, really good. But I had no idea. I thought it was another like royal family period piece. I had no...
Yeah, I have not.
But it was a book. It was a book, and is
right.
now
Also a good way to do, if you have a favorite movie, it maybe is based on a book.
Love that.
And
too, I've seen, yeah, you know, you like the theme. That's funny because I've seen movies and then gone back and read the book several times, and people are like, oh, you know, to some people that's an absolute affront. To others, it's like,
yeah,
just how you
tend to like the other direction better. I apologize for my background noise. I tend to read the book first and then watch the movie. Often movies, of course, because of the format, they are missing things from the book. The books are always going to be more in depth and have more information and whatever, but that doesn't mean the movies aren't good. And I mean, there's something to be said about going in that direction too. You get a basis, you understand what the story is, you know what's going to happen. So there might not be any surprises, but it's just
but you'll get a different, you
get the story in more depth.
And there are some movies that were so well done. I think we should do a lit chat about that. Just movies that were really true to the book. Because like you said, they can't encompass everything in the book, but I like when they get just the feeling of the book, just the whole feeling that a book had.
Absolutely. Yeah, so to everyone who is interested in getting suggestions or finding out how you can access any of the things we mentioned or things we haven't mentioned online, while we are closed, we do have people in the building and we are answering the phones. We can walk you through getting online, whether it's ebooks or audiobooks, and can give you some more suggestions if you're looking for something in particular or don't have a clue what you're looking for.
Perfect. And we can post a list of what we talked about today.
Absolutely.
We can pop that on probably here. And always check our Facebook page too. The library's Facebook page has a lot that you might find some good suggestions there.
Yep. Well, thanks, Tara.
Thank you, Kate.
Fun
Enjoyable as always.
Bye, everyone.